Hello everyone, and I am here to represent you my master thesis on the topic Cluster Approach to the Valorization of Small Historical Towns on the example of Sestroretsk. Recently, the issue of the role small towns play in a settlement system has become increasingly relevant worldwide. They provide a favorable and healthy environment while maintaining a variety of economic functions. However, globalization policies pursued over the past 30-50 years has resulted into the economic decline of small towns. The tendency threatens ethnic groups, local crafts and cultural heritage, the basis of cultural identity, and in addition aggravates the overpopulation and instability of megacities. The task of revitalising small towns is complex because of their valuable as well as vulnerable environment. They require special approaches to the regeneration of urban milieu, and flexibility and adaptability are to be fostered through the urban design. The purpose of this work is to develop a cluster approach to valorization of small towns as a method that promotes the sustainable development of small urbanized areas. The thesis consists of 4 chapters: Introduction and Conclusion. Chapter 1 shows the analysis of the current role small towns play in the settlement system and their historical value. An example of Russia, we see their low economic attractiveness. The special development strategies, national projects, and programs do not offer a comprehensive strategy for solving the problem of small cities. In the field of heritage protection, as a main advantage of small historical towns, there are no effective tools for working with urban planning and landscape complexes. Obviously, it is not enough to consider economic and historical approaches separately. At the intersection of these methods and the theory of restoration, adaptation is significant to mention. Combining it with economic fundamentals, we get valorization. It's a management method that is part of the adaptation project and is inseparable from restoration work. Valorization involves the creation of an authentic image of heritage and aims to enrich social and territorial potential. It's carried out through the creation of a business plan and a post-project management model and operates with financial instruments adapted to the characteristics of the architectural heritage. Since valorization uses the value network model as a base, it works most effectively with urban planning systems. And here, the examples of valorization projects and their technical characteristics are given, and valorization here is used for the revitalisation of small towns and settlements in Europe. Chapter 2 shows that, like any town, small towns are systems, and they are subject to the laws of functioning. Namely, they belong to the type of complex adaptive systems, and their development and decay occurs according to the principles of feedback loops, and most often this process is triggered by the laws of a town-forming center, which can be overcome exclusively with the help of urban potential. Schemes of functional structures of towns have been designed, and they are classified by the structural component: agricultural, industrial, touristic, and scientific. To prove that small towns are capable of flexible and diversified development, I offer to foster their transformation in creative industries. Therefore, cluster is proposed as a method for increasing territorial coherence for subsequent functional enrichment. Based on the time of potential activated, I divided urban clusters into agricultural, industrial, touristic, and research, and these diagrams show the similarity of the structure of the cluster and the small town. The special features of small towns make it necessary to design a different type of cluster, the synthetic one. Added with the valorization instrument, synthetic cluster is created in 4 stages: involvement, aggregation, synthesis, and maintenance. And at the end of the chapter, the tools for creating cluster systems in Russia are pointed out. Chapter 3 examines the linear system of towns and settlements of the resort district of St. Petersburg. Statistical data reveals that despite the high natural quality of the environment, there is low level of economic and social infrastructure development and a high crime rate. Inside the resort district, a comparison of the hidden innovative potential is carried out using the OVAS methodology, and the object of study, the town of Sestroretsk, stands out as the most promising for the pilot project of a synthetic cluster. Sestroretsk, a small historical town within St. Petersburg border, lost its city-forming center in 2008 and is now turning into a dormitory town dominated by monotonous residential development. At the same time, the town has a number of potentials that are identified on the basis of historical research and urban planning analysis, which coincides with the stage of recognition of values in the valorization method. Natural potential is proven by a large number of green areas. The presence of sanatoriums and health resources determines the resort potential. The historical monuments preserved from the 18th and 19th centuries define historical and cultural potential. The involvement stage is based on urban planning analysis and recognition of three main potentials, and is carried out according to the following methodology. First, officially designated security zones are identified, then valuable urban development sites, and finally state-owned territories or empty abandoned areas. At the next stage, aggregation, areas are united on a territorial basis. Key objects are identified in them, and conventional names are given in accordance based on the factors of proximity to objects of nature, medicine, and historical sites. The clusters are divided by function into bioecological, medical recreational, research restoration, as well as coordination, and all of them are aimed at conducting practice-oriented research to maintain and develop the local environment. Then a SWOT analysis is carried out, and based on it and on SWOT matrix, the strategy, which is called Network for Innovation, is selected as the most preferable for the development of Sestroretsk town. It involves creating a town network based on cultural heritage, attracting business and investors for individual projects, and socially oriented transformation of the environment. And here is the axonometric scheme illustrating the two stages and functional potential specified. You can also compare the historical photos and status quo of Sestroretsk urban environment. Then the actual project of the synthetic cluster in Sestroretsk is presented in Chapter 4. In architectural and urban planning terms, the synthesis stage is the most important. Infrastructural connections at the level of individual functional clusters are created on the basis of four planning compositions: resort, promenade, restoration, English garden, biological, natural entertaining garden, medical, and palace and park ensemble for coordinated cluster. On the former industrial territory of the Sestroretsk plant, a new development is being designed with the preservation of historical buildings and the creation of a scientific, experimental, trade, business, and residential zone. Individual clusters are connected by a road network, combined with the rental of alternative means of mobility. Former country houses or dachas are being adapted for new functions. This is, for example, what the floor plan of Smigradsky's dacha, repurposed as a media library, will look like. The adaptation project is just one of the steps of the life cycle. Object of heritage can have a very expensive land near megacities, and it is the most optimistic perspective. The further, the more, through tactical interventions, all the town can gradually be transfigured and livened up. Just look how many poles of growth can be identified here. And all the clusters are not just working place or laboratories, but comfortable and safe public spaces. A business plan for the territory is formed, identifying stakeholders, resources, products, and budget structure. The maintenance stage is expressed in a model of post-project management in a cluster system and emphasizes the self-sufficiency of the cluster, as evidenced by resource flow diagrams. They make the main beneficiary local community united in local association, which along with all participants of the process determines the development project or the settlement for a limited period. The cluster system provides opportunity for phased implementation and uses synergetic effect in individual projects. The complexity of managing the process is offset by the creation of a digital coordination system for monitoring, collecting information, and processing research results and feedback from residents. In conclusion, the author proposed scaling the cluster to linear system of resort district. For each region, its own potentials are allocated and the entire territory is divided into main and secondary centers and reserve territories. The scale of the resort district is similar to Silicon Valley, in which the system of small towns is ahead of a million plus cities in terms of production and creative potentials. This once again proves the effectiveness of the proposed cluster approach to small towns. Thus, in the thesis, a comprehensive analysis of all issues of small towns decline are conducted, and there are proposed solutions that operate at different levels. The author has identified the diverse potential of small towns, and first of all creative. Using the specific example of Sestroretsk, the universality of cluster approach to small historical towns is emphasized. Thank you for your attention.